I'm Bonnie Buckley, and this is another episode of SuperStrings Studio Live. I'm so excited to talk to you today about practicing. We're going to talk about making practice work for you. So what is practicing and what it isn't? There's a lot of confusion sometimes with families about how we should structure practicing or how to get it done. Sometimes people think, oh, I can just do it in a couple of minutes, or I schedule these minutes and I did 10 minutes, okay, that's enough. But it's really so much more than just a set number of minutes. You really have to have a plan for those minutes. And not only have a plan, but it really works best if you can get a routine. You need to get this in the daily plan. I mean, we say as teachers, only practice on the days that you eat. And that's so true. It's really not something that's just a once in a while kind of thing. And if that's your attack or plan of attack on getting your practicing done, then I'm afraid that learning a bowed string instrument probably isn't going to work very well for you. You really want to make sure that you find a time in your day, a regular time, like after brushing your teeth in the morning. Some people do it in the morning. Some people find it works much better in the evening after dinner. It depends on the person. Some people like to do it as a break from their other homework, especially school children. Maybe they come home and do some of their reading or something, and then in the middle of the homework, they take time out to do violin practice or viola, cello, whatever instrument you're learning. So there are actually amounts of time that are more appropriate for different age kids, such as young beginners up to like age 4, 5, 6. I would say maybe 15-20 minutes every day is enough. But to try to push this is better, like, get those 15-20 minutes every single day, and then by the end of the first year, trying to push this up to like 20-25 minutes every single day. I know it's easy to say that as a teacher, to try to get people to do that, but it's really something parents, you have to really have on board with you to get those regular daily things done. It is honestly so much more than just those minutes. It's how we structure those minutes. So you really have to work with your teacher and know exactly what is covered in the lesson from week to week. That's why many of us write practice notebooks for our students. Use that practice notebook that we've made for you. It's specifically for you or your child, and don't neglect that. I mean, I know some people that never open those practice notebooks, and what a waste. I mean, we spend the time making that for you, and it's so helpful. So we want to structure the time for young children, maybe up to age 5, 6 years old, 15-20 minutes every single day, and finding a regular time every single day to do it. I know it's tough. There's so many different activities going on, but if you can make it to be a regular time after some activity to trigger the time, maybe after breakfast in the morning or after they've had their bath in the evening. I know one family that does it just before dinner as the child has finished the homework, and then practicing the violin for 20 minutes. But we want to really work on this at least 5-6 days a week. That's really a super important part. We need to train our muscles. You really want to have a little bit more time the older the child is. In the primary grades, the child should be able to work up to 30 minutes a day. And then after a year or two of 30 minutes, gradually increasing it to 40, 45 minutes. After 2 or 3 years of instruction, and in the intermediate to advanced intermediate stages, they're going to be working up to probably an hour a day. If you're planning on learning it well and you want to master the instrument, it takes consistent practice. There are a lot of things that you can do to organize your practice. One of those things is scales. Well, actually, even before scales is just playing open strings. Using your open strings to get your ear trained on your sound that you're producing. It's so important for your brain to make that shift into the acoustic side of things, and actually starting with some physical warm-ups is probably the best thing you can do. Do some breathing, some arm circles, some standing on one foot and doing figure eights with the other foot. You need to make sure that the instrument is really tuned properly. You can use a tuning app. You can get those free. You can download one and put it on your phone and use that to get the pitch. So another thing you can do is some simple finger exercises on the instrument with your left hand. Without the bow, you can just practice making the correct shape of the fingers on the instrument. And I know it's controversial whether you're going to use tapes or not use tapes, but whatever method you're using with tapes or not, to have the correct left hand formation and pressing down the strings without the bow under your chin, that's also quite normal and useful for warming up your hands and your mind before you get into making music with your violin. Then once you've got your left hand a little bit in shape, you want to actually use the bow for the open strings without the left hand. And then you're going to start doing the scales. Scales is very important to have, even if it's a 1-octave scale, and maybe by the end of the first year you're able to play a few different 1-octave scales in D major, or G major, A major. I can't emphasize enough the importance of scales and even simple arpeggios. We gotta put those into our practice and make that part of the first 5-10 minutes of your playing the instrument every single time. Now, a few more things that you can implement in your practicing to make it really effective, and I really think this is so important, is doing review pieces, working on your pieces that you've learned, but refining them, making sure they're really polished and memorized. It's so important. I would do this every single time I practice. So reviewing, that's really super important. And one other thing that you should be putting into your practice is using a metronome. And that's another thing you can get as a free app if you don't already have one. You can get a standalone one that's kind of fun to have, so you don't need to rely on your phone or something like that. But you can get a small metronome and use it and learn how to use it. If you don't know how to use a metronome, ask your teacher. Maybe I'll do a tutorial just on how to use a metronome. It's so important to use a metronome to keep the beat steady and not just adding spaces here and there where you have a problem. And if you're not using a metronome, you probably don't even realize that you're doing that. But it's great to use a metronome to be consistent, and the metronome doesn't lie. And yeah, one other tiny thing you can possibly do sometimes is video recording yourself or audio recording yourself and then listening to it. And that also doesn't lie. You really get a feel for what problems you need to work on. So I hope you've enjoyed my talk on how to make your practicing more effective. Again, make sure you're using your practice notebook that your teacher writes for you if you have one. And also, if you like this episode, please stay tuned for the next one. And you can get all of these tips that I've given you on my website. If you sign up for the newsletter, then this is a free printable that you can get on the website. So I would love to know what you think about my ideas for your practicing. And if you'd like to, please like it below and let me know how your practicing is going. Write a comment. I would love to know how it's going for you in your practicing.